I think we've started. Have we started, Karen?
We are
Live?
good.
All right. There's like no warning. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live cast. My name is Robin Robbins. Welcome today. We've got a pretty cool session we're going to be going over. It is going to be MSP marketing for beginners. And I've decided to do this session because so many MSPs struggle to grow. They struggle to reach the MRR and profitability goals and get the high value clients they want because they don't know how to do marketing the right way. And that's mostly because they don't have a background in marketing, they don't have a sales background, and they don't know where to start. So I wanted to do this today to put together an approach that is not brand new to what we've talked about before, but sort of a different way, a different framework of explaining how to approach growing your MSP. And yes, it's marketing, but it's going to be a little bit more than marketing. And that way you'll be able to attract the customers that you want, grow your MSP, make the money you want, and actually work with high value clients that appreciate what you do, which is super, super, super important. All right. So if you guys have questions, please put that into the Q&A in the Zoom somewhere. There is chat, and you can definitely put chat in there. I've got Karen here in the background. She'll like chat at you a little bit, I guess. But if you have questions, put that in the Q&A because that helps us to organize those questions a little bit better. So let's act like Cool in the Gang and get down on it. All right. And so I'm going to share my screen here with you guys. Here's the session, MSP marketing for beginners. And I want to start out with a really thought-provoking question. Okay. This is a question I've been asking audiences recently, and it's very interesting to watch people's faces when I ask it. Obviously, I can't do that with you right now because I can't see all of you. Wish I could, but I can't. But anyway, so this is the question, okay? How much money do you think you would have right now, or you could say success in your business or growth in your business, if you had the ability to go back in time to when you first started your business and I gave you the skills and the knowledge for how to achieve best in class performance for your MSP? All right. So, again, what if I had a magic wand and I gave you the ability to go back in time with all the skills and knowledge you need for marketing, for sales, for packaging and pricing? So you knew exactly how to package and price your services to get best in class profits, to set up marketing and sales systems to attract that steady flow of new high value clients, how to close sales with confidence. You had sales skills and overcome price objections, how to put in place financial controls. A lot of MSPs that are smaller don't really even understand the financial controls they got to put in place to prevent losses and make really smart decisions. And then also creating strategic growth plans to get those implemented. And usually when I ask people this question, the answer is kind of breathtaking. It's the amount of money that some people have lost, because when you think about it, you don't think about it as a loss. But if you've been in business for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you have not implemented a marketing system or a sales system that's consistent, that's productive, you are leaving just untold millions of dollars out there in the ether, unclaimed. Well, it's not unclaimed. I shouldn't say that. It's claimed by your competition is what it is, right? Because the opportunities are the opportunities. You're just not getting a swing at them. So, the reason you might even ask yourself, well, why would you ask such a crappy question? I mean, puts me in a bad mood. And you don't want to do that when you're speaking to people. You want to put them in a good mood, make them feel good. And the reason for that is primarily because I really don't want this to be just another webinar that you attend. I really want this to be a wake-up call. I really want this to be the moment in time when you decide, you know what, I'm going to grow this thing. I'm going to expand my business. I'm going to get best in class profits. I'm going to get the at least industry average growth or better. I am going to secure high value clients. I'm going to learn how to develop those clients. I'm going to learn how to sell so I don't have to deal with, price resistance constantly and sales stalls and delays and all the things, right? So that's why I want you to think about that, because those losses are real because you don't have those systems in place. And I don't know how many people we actually have on. I'll have to look. I know we had over 200 registered, but some of you might be on. I don't know. You could maybe put it in the chat and I could take a look at it. I'm just wondering, like, how many of you have never heard me speak before? I don't know. I mean, it might be a couple of you, might be, I mean, maybe you're all familiar with me. I don't ever want, I don't want to assume that. I know we always get a lot of new customers. I mean, this year alone, we've seen over 1,500 brand new MSPs come into our database. I mean, they're like new startups, right? So there you go. John's even saying, I've not heard you speak, first time. Okay, great. So I never want to assume, and this is like lesson one, guys. So I'm presenting, but I'm going to be teaching a lot. You never want to assume that an audience you're speaking to already knows who you are and is already bought in lock, stock, two smoking barrels of like, I'm going to take your advice. All right. So for just a moment, I want to take a minute to give you a little quick background on who I am and how I started the company. So I started out in 2002 working with, I actually started working with VARs because MSP was just kind of getting started. But I started in 2002 through a partnership with CompTIA and then with ASCII, working with VARs and MSPs. All right. So since that time, I have had over 10,000 MSPs, VARs, IT service companies enroll in one or more of my programs. So it's been a very long journey of working with a lot of VARs and MSPs. I've seen the industry change from being more VAR to MSP to MSSP. I've had clients that have been with me for 15 years plus, 20 years. Most of those people have sold their businesses. And they've moved on to other things. Some of them are still, even though they've sold their business, they're still hanging around, right? And so one of the reasons I would tell you that is, like, I've been around for a very long time. I'm not a flash in the pan overnight, just started the business. I've seen a lot. I've seen startups. We have a lot of new startup MSPs that we work with, and we have also a lot of them that are in the 5, 10, $20 million range and up. Obviously, there's a lot more smaller ones. So the majority of our clients are going to be they're going to be 5 million or less. A lot of startups we're seeing this year in particular, but I have seen what works and what doesn't work. And if you look at clients, revenue, retention, growth, we are the largest, most successful marketing consulting firm in the IT services channel by far, period. Which I think is important. If you're going to work with a company that's going to show you how to do sales and marketing and grow, like, they ought to know how to do it themselves, right? So, I mean, that's why I'm saying, I'm not saying that to brag, but just to kind of underscore, I actually do what I'm teaching. We actually apply the things that I teach our members. I'm actually have done, and I have grown my own business from scratch, no private equity, starting up, and just I own it myself. Well, and now I've got some stock options for employees. So, but still started 100% on my own. I didn't have to take private equity. I've grown it on my own efforts, on what I teach people to do. And we run the largest peer group in the industry. So the number keeps ticking up. So that's why I have just over 1,500, because I didn't check this morning, but I know it was just over 1,500 MSPs that we have in peer groups. So that makes us the largest peer group company in the channel. And that's important because, again, these are MSPs, not just customers of ours, but these are MSPs that are in peer groups, and they meet with a client coach or a captain of ours. And we bubble up and hear a lot of what's going on, what the trends are, what's working, what's not working. And that's important. And the thing that I am most proud of is we have more documented client success stories than any other marketing consultant out there, period, full stop. And that is true. And it's factual. You can go check it out. You don't have to buy to find that out. That is true. It's part of what our unique selling proposition is. So the reason I share all this with you is not to brag, but just to say, I do think I have a little bit of credibility on how MSPs grow. How do they get better customers? How do they make more money? How do they actually build enterprise value, which is the value of your MSP when you're going to sell it? And so, I've gone through a lot of iterations of my knowledge and my program. We've tested so many new things. We're continually testing new things. And here's one of the main things that you've got to understand, and not just understand, but embrace if you're going to grow your MSP. Because most MSPs, when they come to us, they think they have a marketing problem. And they do have a marketing problem. but they got way more than that. It kind of has to roll all the way back to really what is the goal that you have for your business, okay? So in our logo, you see keep it real, right? And that stands for the acronym rewarding, easy, attractive, lucrative, which is the kind of business that you want to build versus a tech business, which is tedious, exhausting, chaotic, and hard. And so if you are the kind of clients that work well with me, the ones that are the best fit for my methodology, for my programs, are the ones who have honest ambition and they want to build a real business. They don't want to build just a lifestyle business. All right. So the first thing you really have to determine is what is your vision and what are you building? Because before you just start leaping to, I got to do some marketing around here, you've really got to have a strategy of what you're trying to build. Because if you're just trying to do a lifestyle business, that's going to be a different approach than, hey, I am trying to grow this business to $10 million so that I can have a big EBITDA, and a successful exit. And I want to do that in 7 years time. And I want to, here's the target markets, et cetera. So, that's why I'm bringing this up. Because one of the things for marketing, I have to kind of help you understand is marketing is too important to be left to the marketing department. Okay. Marketing is not just, hey, let's send out some postcards and do some social media posts and get a spam email list and start burning through a spam email list or whatever. I don't know what your perception of marketing is, but marketing really starts with who is the customer? What are we selling? Who's going to be our competition? Because obviously you got to differentiate from the competition. You're entering into a crowded marketplace. So you got to know who the customer is. What is your model for business, for making money? How are you going to compete? What is the model for making money? And again, like I said, that's going to be a lot different if you want to have a small business, a tech with helpers. Because if the primary motivation is just not to have a boss, if the primary motivation is like, hey, I don't want to have any plan for building this thing, I just want to get a couple customers in the door, that's a whole different approach than somebody who wants a real business, rewarding, easy, attractive, lucrative, and their primary motivation is to build a very lucrative, thriving, growing MSP, and they want to achieve that financial freedom. So I think the first thing you got to have a little heart to heart with yourself and ask yourself, what am I building here? Here's one thing I will tell you. Okay. I know there's a lot of people that say I'm a lifestyle MSP. Okay. I don't think there is any such thing as a lifestyle MSP. Okay. Now, I think there are certain businesses that definitely could be a lifestyle type business. Like if you want to drive Uber, if you want to, let's say, crochet sweaters for kittens and you want to sell them on Etsy or something like that, that's kind of a lifestyle business. An MSP is not a lifestyle business because the nature of what you're doing for your customers is monitoring, managing their IT 24/7, 365. And that is not something that you can be casual about if you're really truly doing a great job for your customers, right? Because if you're starting out and you're saying, well, I want to stay small, that's fine. But then the minute you want to take a vacation, or God forbid, the minute you get sick, your clients are being let down because you're not around to do the work. So again, I think you really want to consider this. Now, how big do you want to get? I don't know. I mean, that's really, again, that's going to be up to you. I'm not here to tell you how much money you should make. That's a personal goal. I do think you should know how much money you need to achieve financial freedom. I think you should go for that goal, because that way you're not a burden to your family when you get older. You can actually help your children. I think you can help family members. So yes, all of those things, but how much money that is, I don't know if that's 100 million or if that's $1 million. I don't know. That's a decision for you. But I do think if you are going to start an MSP, at a minimum, you want to grow it so that you're not the only one doing all the work, right? Because if you're the only one doing all the work, or you're the linchpin of the business, then that business is in dire straits, because you can't dare shrug, right? You can't dare take a day off, a week off, get sick, have a problem, because if you do, the whole thing is going to implode. So again, I don't know how big you want to get it, but I do encourage you to think beyond just being, this is a side hustle. All right. Okay. So mindset matters. So when you're going into this and you're saying to yourself, well, look, I want to grow, you want to have a growth mindset. And Carol Dweck, who's an American psychologist, wrote, she created this kind of growth mindset term. She wrote a book about it, right? And in the book, basically this graphic here sums up the book. Very successful people have growth mindsets. And a growth mindset is thinking, they want to grow, they want to get the goal, but they're not afraid of trying a different strategy. And they always kind of ask themselves, am I doing the right thing? Is this really my best work? Could I improve? And they're always trying to improve. They're always trying to push the envelope. They're always trying to get to the next horizon. They understand that it's going to take time and effort, and they're not afraid of that. Fixed mindset people is like, you know what? I'm a tech. I'm an engineer, Robin. I'm sorry. I am never going to be good at sales and marketing. It's just not going to happen. I'm not smart enough. I don't have a sales bone in my body. My work's good enough in that. This is too hard. I don't like to do marketing because it's too difficult. It's too expensive. It's too whatever. That is a fixed mindset. And that mindset is going to shut you down every single time. And I'll give you this is a true story, right? So we had a guy call in, a lead came into my office, and we generate thousands of leads, guys. So, just bear with me when I don't know every single lead that comes in, but the guy calls in. He was a break fix shop, been in business for 15, 20 years, something like that, small, doing a couple $100,000. And he calls in and he meets with one of my advisors. We put together a plan for growth for him, and he decides he's not going to move forward with us. Okay, no problem. He goes off in his merry way. Now, about a year later, he comes back and he gets on the phone again. And he was talking to my one of my long-term advisors, Aaron. Aaron's been around for over a decade, really knows MSP marketing very well. He's talking to him and he said, hey, I don't know the guy's name, whatever, Bob, right? Hey, Bob, what's going on? I see you're back. Like we talked a year ago, you didn't move forward. What's going on? And Bob says, well, Aaron, I just lost my biggest break fix customer to one of your guys. And he says it kind of snarky, like our clients are a bunch of assholes or something. But he's like, I just lost one of my single biggest customer to one of your guys who sold him a managed services contract. And now I got to figure out how to replace that income, or I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. Okay, so Aaron does the consultation. We come to the same conclusion. Here's the plan. We need to put proper packaging and pricing. We got to all the things, like we map it out for him. He says, I don't think that's going to work. Aaron says, well, why? And he goes, well, I don't think you can sell managed services in St. Louis. He happened to be in St. Louis. And Aaron says, well, what makes you think you can't sell managed services in St. Louis? And he goes, well, I've been doing this for 15, 20 years and nobody wants to pay that kind of money and nobody wants to pay those kinds of prices. And he says, if the only way I'm going to enroll in your program is I want to talk to 5 or 6 other MSPs in St. Louis using your program who have had success with it, and then I might sign up. So Aaron brings it to me and he goes, well, what do I do with this guy? And I'm like, you don't sell him anything. You tell him, thank you very much, but we're probably not a fit for you. And Aaron's like, well, why would you say that? And I said, look, here's the deal. This guy is convinced you can't sell managed services in St. Louis. He's been in business 15, 20 years. He's told you, he's adamant about it. I mean, even though we pointed out, hey, by the way, clearly somebody's selling managed services because the guy that stole your customer sold him managed services. No, that was a fluke, So the point I'm just making is, I said to Aaron, I said, a guy has that kind of mindset. I don't care what templates I give him. I don't care how carefully mapped out the instructions are. You do A, then you do B, then you do C. I don't care what tools, templates, strategies I give him. He's not going to be successful because his mindset is you can't sell managed services in St. Louis. It's going to fail. And I think that's a lot of you watching this. Again, I don't know each one of you individually, but you've got to understand that sales and marketing and learning how to do numbers and learning how to run your business and learning how to set goals and learning how to sell and learning how to do marketing properly, these are just skills. And if it's a skill, you can learn a skill. And if you're running a business, these are skills you have to learn how to do. And every entrepreneur has strengths and weaknesses. Like you might be really good at the doing of the work, the technical work. You might be great with customer service. You might be great with the finances. I don't know. But however many you have that you're good at, there's going to be some skills that you're not good at. And those are the ones you have to develop if you're going to grow your business. So it's not just one skill, it's multiple ones, but it starts with mindset. And the mindset of failure that I see over and over again with MSPs, again, doing this 20 years, 10,000 people I've talked to, work with, set goals with, seen some win, seen some fail, seen a lot of people kind of stay the same, right? Is a lot of, you got to get out of your head that you're a tech and you can't be good at sales and marketing. Again, these are simple skills that you can learn. You got to get out of your head. If we just focus on being great at what we do, clients will come to us. That is not the case at all. There are a lot of very good MSPs out there that are not big and not growing. And whether you like that or not, the simple fact of the matter is those who are doing aggressive go-to-market strategies, marketing and sales, they're the ones that are growing. That's it. It's, yes, you got to do a good job. I'm not saying don't do a good job, of course, because if you're not good at what you do, you're only going to accelerate the pace at which people find out you're no good. That's not helpful, right? You're going to churn customers. You're going to get bad reputation, all the things, right? But just being good is not enough. That is like the entry into the game. A lot of you think, oh, I got to get operations in order before I can do any marketing. And I'm telling you guys, you might as well just forget it, because your operations are never going to be perfect. It is an endless black hole of things that need to be improved and changed and worked on. And if you wait to do that, you'll never get to marketing. And marketing is not something that you do once in a while when you have the time. It is not like just this activity. Marketing is a full-on growth strategy for your business. That's why marketing for beginners is really important, because a lot of you, again, you think marketing is just websites and emails and blogs and social media posts. Marketing is like the strategic growth plan of your business. And saying I got to wait to get operations in line before I do that, it doesn't even make sense. All right. So that's total BS. I don't have time to do marketing right now. I'll do it sometime in the future when timing is better and I'm less busy, which is another BS. I don't know if you realize how much BS that is, because here's the question. When someone says this to me, here's the question I'm going to ask them. Do you honestly think 6 months from now, a year from now, you are going to be less busy than you are right now? And they laugh. I'm like, of course you're not going to be. Is there ever been a time in your life where you were not super busy and you woke up one morning going, hey, I got nothing to do here. Maybe I'll just work on marketing today, right? It's BS. You're using that as an excuse to not do the thing that you need to do, all right? Because you're never going to be less busy. And marketing is something you have to do ongoing. It's not something you do once in a while, all right? So you got to get that out of your head. You might say, I can't take another client on right now. Okay. So when someone tells me that, I'll ask them, I say, man, you must be rolling in the dough. You must be making bank. If you're that busy, you literally can't take on another customer. Right. And they go, well, I'm not making that much money. Well, hang on a second. Wait a minute. You're so busy, you can't take another client and you're not making any money. That doesn't make any sense. And then when you dig in, what you find is they're not making any money because they got a bunch of cheap, low money clients that they're running themselves ragged trying to service. And my question is, well, why aren't we upgrading, charging more, upgrading those people? If we lose a couple, fine, because if we raise our prices, that goes right to your bottom line. So you'll make the same amount of money with fewer clients. And then when you have some space in your calendar, because you're not dealing with all these low money clients, then we can fill them with new ones. And that's why you want to do marketing, so that you can fire the low money, unproductive clients. And every MSP should be firing, I'd say, the bottom 5% to maybe 10%, bottom 5 to 10% of your customers every single year. Because if you're not, you're not growing. How MSPs grow, folks, is they trade up the customer. In other words, like most MSPs, you guys starting out, like I started out, you kind of do anything for a buck, right? You're scrappy. At some point, though, you've got to start going upstream and getting better quality, higher paying customers where IT is more essential, where they're going to have a budget for IT, where they actually care about cybersecurity. And that is a process of constantly trading up the customer as your skills grow, as your organization grows, as your team grows, as your operations grow, as your operational maturity grows. You trade up the customer, but you can't trade up if you have no inbound leads or customers to replace the ones you want to get rid of. So you got to understand, this is a process of business development, not just marketing. And so, if you're stuck and you're not doing marketing and you're not making money and you're not taking on any clients, you got to understand you're in a really, really bad position. So you got to fix that. That's just a bad mindset. Same thing. I can't afford to do marketing. Guys, you can't afford not to do marketing. Marketing doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. There's a lot of things you can do to get customers in the door that don't cost a lot of money. We teach them to our members. And so all of that are things that you've got to get out of your head. Okay. All right, Karen, real quick, before I move on, any questions?
I was just going to add about the firing the customers. Another great book recommendation I know you would have as well as The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz.
For sure.
That he talks about that. So he really takes a deep dive if you guys want more information. Darren just had commented that he's turning from a 100% MSP to a 75% MSP and 25% marketing.
Okay.
And then we did have a question. So there was one person who had mentioned that he's been a one-man shop. So if he is going to hire, who would you recommend his first hire be? Another tech so he could do marketing, or somebody for marketing?
Yeah, probably your first best hire would be a part-time admin, because most of you, if there's some low-level administrative tasks, like even some of the marketing stuff can be just given to an admin, and you don't have to have someone full-time. You can hire a part-time stay-at-home mom that wants a couple hours, as long as they have the flexibility to work from home and do the work, around their schedule. There's an army of people out there that will take that gig all day long. So the first hire you probably want is a good administrative assistant. They can do things like answer your phone and schedule client calls and help you with invoicing and billing and help you get the website set up and all these admin things that you're doing. That would probably be my first hire. And again, it depends though. If you're doing a lot of technical work, maybe then you do need to hire a tech or something to free you up to work more on the business and let them handle some of the work. Okay. All right. See, I'm seeing that already. Someone's commenting. So true. I stay at home, homeschool mom. I do marketing admin part-time. There you go. I'm telling you, it's for real. Okay. So now when you think about marketing, you think what you're really wanting is growth, right? I mean, you're saying I need marketing plan, but what that means is you want more clients paying you more money, right? So when you think about it that way, the way I coach my clients is there's three big component parts to growing a business, okay? The first part is lead generation. That's obvious. That's marketing. That's SEO plans. That's trade shows. That's referrals. That's SDR, telemarketing work, LinkedIn ads, you name it. That's lead generation, okay? The second component, a lot of people don't think about though, is the lead conversion part of this, right? Lead conversion is once a lead comes into your org, however it comes in, how are you capturing it? How are you following up with it? How are you getting that lead immediately to an appointment so that a sales event can happen? And that's list building. See, that's how list building is done. And most MSPs, when they come to me, they have no list because they've been in business for 20 years, but they haven't been capturing the leads coming in. They have no process for it. They have no tracking for it. They have no systems. They have no CRM. And because they have no list, they're starting over. They've been in business for 20 years and they're like a 20-year-old startup because they don't have any list. So lead conversion is lead capture, nurture, follow-up, but it's also your sales process, all right? So it's also how do we convert more leads into paying customers at a higher price point? So that's all that component part. And then the third part is maximizing client value. And again, from my experience in doing this for over 20 years, 10,000 plus MSPs, VARs, in all shapes and sizes, I'm telling you, most people do not totally fully max out their client value. This is an area that is just a gold mine and they never even think about it, right? Now, here's the other part of it. If we are trying to grow the business, you want to think about all three component parts. You don't just want to do one, because if you get growth in any one area, let's say we increase lead generation by 10, 20%, we might not get a 10, 20% growth because the lead conversion part, we're generating leads, but you're not prepared to handle them. So they're not converting and they're not being captured and they're not being followed up on. So you're just dumping money out a door. right? Or once you get the customers, if your packaging and pricing is wrong, all we're doing is accelerating the demise of your business because we're putting customers into an unprofitable model. So you really want to work on all three. And when you work on all three, it is not just it, like if we increase each of these areas 10%, it is not just a 10% increase. It is actually a 56% gain. Okay. So let me give you an example. Let's say lead generation, let's say you're generating 3 total leads every single month, right? That's about 36 leads per year. And let's say we don't go hog wild in spending a ton of money on marketing. We just make a couple tweaks, we improve some things, and we get a 10% increase in inbound leads. Okay. That's not crazy high number of of increase, right? So now instead of 36 leads a year, we're getting 40 leads a year. Okay. 10% increase. Okay, very doable, very conservative, very doable, right? But we don't stop there. Then what we do is we work on lead capture conversion. So let's say you, out of every 3 leads, you're generating your closing 1, which is a 33% close rate, which is about average is what I see out there of people that we have polled, okay, and our members. So I say our people we poll, our members on average are closing about 35% from initial lead to the actual sale, not just opportunity. So that's pretty good. But let's say that's you, 33%, you're getting 12 clients a year, 1 per month, okay? And with a better capture, lead follow-up, better sales process, we don't radically change things, but we bump it by 10%. So the close rate's now 43% instead of 33%. Okay. Then we don't stop there. By maximizing client revenue, we raise prices a little bit because we know how to upsell an advanced cyber package, and we know how to establish value. We know how to overcome objections. And instead of our average MRR being $1,000 per month, we now get it to $1,100. Okay. So again, not big radical shifts, 10% increase in each area. So check this out, right? If you multiply this across, if you were doing $144,000 in generating 3 leads and 1 client a month at $1,000, you'd be adding and growing at $144,000 in MRR every single year, plus projects and stuff like that, right? But if we get a 10% increase and we're generating 40 leads and closing 43% of them and bumping the prices, the revenue that's generated now is $224,000. That's an $80,000 increase right there by not spending another dime on anything, just improving our process and being more focused on it. And that's a 56% increase, not a 10% increase. And this is where a lot of people, they have to really understand that you don't want to just work on one. You want to work on all 3 simultaneously and forever, because you're always going to be developing more leads, and you're always going to be improving your sales process, and you're always going to be doing client development. And then once you get that going, understand that once you get new clients, you've got to, and we've increased your prices and we've increased your close rate. That is a massive increase in profitability, right? Because if we bump your prices 10%, let's say you're charging $100, simple numbers, and you're making 20% profit. So for every $100, you make $20. All right. Now, if we charge $110, that extra $10 that we're charging drops right to the bottom line, because all we did was a price increase. We didn't do more. We just raised prices. So instead of $20, you're making $30, which is now 30%. All right. So you got to understand, like, when you close more leads, when you raise your prices and can have a better sales process, and you know how to do customer development, your profitability goes up exponentially. You get also a lower cost of new client acquisition, NCA, and what's also called RAC, revenue acquisition cost, which I actually like revenue acquisition cost, because it's for how much does it cost you in your business to generate $1 of revenue. Okay, so that's a really good metric because it encompasses a lot of things. But with a 10% bump in 10% bumps in lead production and conversion, you are now making more revenue per client with the spend of what energy, whatever you're putting into marketing. You're now getting more referrals. You're getting 3+ years of recurring revenue. You're getting growth of MRR, additional seats and services that you're selling to those customers. And you're getting project revenue, hardware, and you're getting enterprise value growth, which is very, very good, because the deal around here, again, if you're doing what I'm saying, if you're wanting to grow a real business, at some point, you will exit that business. By the way, we're all going to exit our business at some point. Hopefully we do it on our own terms and we get a lot of money for it. But I'm going to tell you, a lot of people don't. A lot of people exit their business under duress because it's the 5 Ds. They're under duress. They got a divorce. They've got a major disease or something that happened to them, right? They've got disagreement with a business partner or some disaster kind of hits them. So you want to make sure that when you are building your business, you're not just generating money and income, but you're building an asset that you can sell later on at some point, right? So when you work and develop all three of these areas, right, which is what we teach our clients, we don't just teach marketing, we teach this. You're getting all of the benefit of increased profitability, lowered cost, of enterprise value, and more certainty in your business. All right. But see, again, most MSPs make the mistake of thinking, well, I got a marketing issue and I need more leads in here. I need more clients, but you're not prepared for handling inbound leads. Like right now, if I called your office, if a lead's calling your office, you probably don't even know a lead's calling your office because you don't have any phone tracking and you don't even know who's answering the phone. It's probably going to voicemail. And you know what? What's the number one reason why prospects fire their MSP? Because they're not responsive. So now you've got the opportunity. Someone actually called your office, a lead called, and what do they get? Voicemail. When do you call them back? 2-3 days from now? Who knows, right? I'm telling you, I'm going to show you some stats about this, right? So you're not prepared to even handle the leads. So you got to be prepared to handle the leads before you start generating them. A lot of you lack critical marketing assets. Now, a marketing asset is like a website. It's social proof, like Google reviews or testimonials on your website. Most of you don't have a CRM. It's like a CRM is an application. Marketing automation is better, where its leads are captured, tracked, so you can follow up, you can nurture, you can do drip marketing. And your PSA tool is not a proper tool. It is not. You need to have a proper CRM marketing automation platform to do marketing, just like you need a proper RMM tool to deliver managed services and manage and organize tickets coming in, right? That's what your CRM is. Think of it like a marketing ticketing system, right? You need to have that in place. And you need a sales process because again, if you're getting customers and you think, man, Robin, just get me more customers, my close rate, 33%, I'll tell you, I close everybody I get in front of. You know what? You're full of shit. Because if I put you out in the wild, not referrals, okay? If you're see, what people who say that are people who just get referrals and then they think they hung the moon and stars, right? If you go out in the world where we're doing real lead generation, where they wake up in the morning, eat their young, and then turn on you, good luck. You're not going to get you're not going to get 100% close rate. You'd be lucky to get a 10% close rate. So we got to fix your sales process too. A lot of times you're underpriced and therefore we're only going to make the situation worse. If we don't fix your pricing and your packaging and your contracts, we're going to add customers to an unprofitable business model. That is not a smart thing to do. We're going to sink your boat, right? And a lot of you are overlooking acres of diamonds and massive opportunity in your current client base. So again, these are the three components, but where we start is here. You want to start by making sure you're maximizing client revenue with right packaging, right pricing, good contracts. Okay. Once you got that, then we work on building the assets of, having a CRM, how do you handle the phone, inbound leads coming in, et cetera. And then we start spinning up lead generation. Okay. Then we start, feeding this beast for growth. All right. And the reason we're starting with existing clients first, because one, like I said, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. But number two, the more clients you need to hit your whatever income or growth goal it is, the more complicated, the more stressful, the more problem riddled your business becomes. Okay. So I call this the Jeff Farr slide. Jeff Farr is one of our client coaches. He put this together. But this is an example of why we also start with client development. So if we said these were all MSPs, right? And there's 4 of them or 5 of them, right? So they all have 150 customers. And they all have customers that have about 25 users. But the first one, as you can see, their average price per seat is only $22. Even if their profitability is 20% the same, look at the difference of what happens with the multiple of what your valuation of your business is. That's what EV stands for on the far right. EV, if your profitability was 20%, the multiple is all MSPs trade on multiples of EBITDA. So if you were generating $200,000 in profit, you would get a 4x multiple and your business is really worth $800,000 today. All right. But if same number of customers, same average user, if we can get that all the way up to $222 average per seat, right? You can see what that does to your enterprise value. Think about this, the difference, not in number of customers, not in number of users, but purely that per seat, which is a client development number, you're seeing the multiples go up exponentially, all right? And that's why we want to do that. So when we talk about where to start when maximizing client value, there's a number of ways to do this, all right? One is making sure you're charging recurring revenue versus break fix or one-off projects, okay? You want to make sure the majority of your customers, at least, you might still have some break fix, but the majority of your customers should be on some kind of recurring revenue, and you should be constantly, persistently trying to get those customers that are break fix to convert to managed. You want to do long-term contracts because long-term contracts are going to build enterprise value. They give you more stability in your business. And I know it's like a hot potato. Some people are like, I never charge long-term contracts because I hate long-term contracts. But the reality is, if you're trying to grow your business and you want stability and you're trying to build enterprise value, you're going to do long-term contracts. Okay. And it's not all bad for the customer either. I think where people get caught up is they're in a contract and the other party's not delivering, but that's a different issue. That's a customer service. That's an SLA issue. That's not a contract issue. Right. So, but having longer term contracts builds your enterprise value. Having regular planned projects, like having a roadmap for your clients and a budget that you review with them in a QBR process, proper account management, is a big, big cornerstone to client development. Okay, super, super important. Having an ascension ladder where they can ascend and buy additional levels of services, advanced cyber or premium support, or some sort of business continuity or disaster recovery or compliance. All right. These are, or, cross-sell into compliance. These are ways you develop that customer and make the per seat bigger. So selling phone systems or security cameras or UCaaS or internet services or compliance or whatever that is. Referral systems, having every client bring you another client is a way of developing that customer, but also developing the value of your business, right? In marketing, using your clients in case studies or in testimonials is another way to get value out of them, or what is called toll position income. Now, toll position income would be like, when you refer your clients to somebody else and they pay you for that access. So you'll see that that's what sponsorship is. When we run events and we have sponsors in the back, they're paying to be there. That's called toll position income because we're giving them access to the people that are in the room. All right. So what I want to do, guys, is take you through a case study of one of my clients. All right. And this is Charles Swihart. Charles Swihart is the CEO of Preactive IT, and he started his IT service business back in 2003 and joined our program around 2015. So he was already 12 years in, 13 years in running his business. And at the time when he came to us, he had 982 clients that were mostly break fix and home users. All right. He was generating $869,000 in top line revenue. He had about 27,000 in MRR, which wasn't terrible. I mean, when I think about it, if I say 27, what is that? That's like, so he's maybe about a third of his revenue was recurring. So he was doing a little bit, was generating $135,000 in income, not profit, but income. And see, that's another thing you guys have to understand. Your salary is not profit. When I talk to you about getting 18, 20% EBITDA, net profit, that is after you've paid yourself a salary. You should be making that in addition to your salary. Okay. So he wasn't making any profit. He was making $135,000 a year, which is what we would have to pay someone to come in and run an $870,000 a year IT business. All right. He was maxed out time and effort. He was burned out, maxed out. And his revenue was starting to tick backwards, which is why he sought us out. So this is the situation he's coming to us in, all right? So the first thing we started to do was proper packaging and pricing. And we helped him develop a managed services offering. And everybody, listen up, because your managed service offering has to have these components, okay? It has to be profitable. We shoot for 65% service gross margin. That's not the margin you're going to get on hardware or software like your Microsoft 365, right? You're not going to get those kind of margin, but on the service should be 65% service gross margin. So number one, it's got to be profitable. Number two, it's got to be scalable. You got to create standard long-term managed packages. So like that, you're not doing these special packages for everybody because you cannot scale. It makes billing harder. Service gets harder because your employees don't even know, oh, is this included in the service or not? I don't know. Every contract's a special snowflake. You are not going to be able to scale, and it's got to be competitive. So it's got to be, obviously you're going to go against competitors. So it's got to have appropriate cyber and compliance and support, et cetera. So we did this for Charles. We put that together for him. And if you want to know how do you calculate managed services gross margin, here's a rough idea, just to give you kind of an idea of this. If you charge 163 per seat, let's say, and COGS, which is direct labor, the engineer's time in supporting that client, which are your soft costs, and then plus software, like whatever RMM, PSA tool, whatever tools you're putting on there, let's say that is $57 per month. That's your COGS, right? That means you're generating $106 in gross profit, not net profit, that's gross, right? So then your gross margin would be 65%. All right. That's what we're shooting for. All right. Karen, questions? I have a feeling like they're coming in or something.
No, there was one that came in when you were talking about raising your prices, and the question being, how do I stay competitive? How do I know what that optimal price is when I'm competing with other MSPs that are priced lower and getting clients?
Well, okay, so part of it is we're going to talk about educational direct response marketing. And I have a piece I'm going to show you in the slide later that will cover that exactly that question. Okay, so don't let me forget, but yes, I will cover that. Just hang with me.
Sure.
All right. Anything else? Are we good? No?
You're good.
Okay. So then this is what Charles said on raising prices. He said, some of the most profitable words Robin ever uttered to me were, don't be afraid to put big numbers on the paper. And what I meant was like what he was charging. Once those words finally sank into my brain, we started raising prices. I remember the first time I slid a more expensive proposal across the conference room table while holding my breath. There were no shocked faces on the other side of the table. They signed up for 3 years. So again, a lot of this is head trash. That's why I started talking about mindset. And you've got to be able to, appropriately price your services to be competitive. Yes, but you don't want to be the cheapest provider, because being the cheapest is a race to the bottom line. And there's always somebody willing to undercut you, right? So you just got to make sure you know your costs, and you got to put your prices together properly, right? So that's the first thing we did. Step two, he raised his prices, put together a better managed services package, and then we stopped doing low money work, but we did it in phases. Okay. Phase one, he raised prices across the board, and he instituted a 2-hour minimum for all service calls. It didn't matter if he worked on it for 15 minutes, he's charging you for 2 hours. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing we did is he stopped doing house calls for residential clients. Believe it or not, he was still driving to people's homes and fixing their computers. So he stopped it. They had to bring it into him. He didn't say he wouldn't help them. He just said, we don't do house calls for residential anymore. You got to bring it to me. And of course, he's losing some customers along the way, because the minute you institute a 2-hour minimum, you lose a couple customers. But here's the thing. Everybody who stays on is now paying you more. When he stopped doing house calls for residential clients, he lost a couple customers, but the ones who were bringing it to him are now paying him more, and he's not losing money by driving out to go replace the batteries in a mouse for somebody. Okay. Then phase three, he stopped doing all consumer work once he had sufficient MRR. So while he's doing this, he's also, we stopped doing the low money work. We were doing other things, but here's the other thing on firing the low money clients. I quickly decided we need to stop doing any consumer work, stop doing all break fix work, and focus on this managed service thing exclusively. But when 70% or more of your revenue is break fix, you can't just stop overnight. There had to be a transition, which is what I just talked to you about. Okay. Now, step three, we started converting his business break fix clients to managed services. Now, I'm showing you an email, okay? This email, this campaign, if you're a client of ours, then we have that break fix to managed services campaign, and it starts out with an email, and you are booking an appointment to talk to your client you're doing what we call a technology business review about a different, better approach to managed services. And there is some materials you send in advance to prepare them for the conversation. We show you how to have that conversation, all of that in the program. But so I just don't want you to think it was just a simple email. There's like a whole process to this, right? Step 4, then we started getting referrals. So once he started converting break fix, we started getting referrals. Again, we have multiple referral campaigns and strategies that we cover how to ask, because you want to, with referrals, it's how you ask, but it's also how you reward. And there's more than one way you can go about this. But you can see, this is one email that Charles sent out. So we started getting referrals, and then we started using and developing testimonials from his existing customers. And that's a huge overlooked and underutilized strategy for maximizing client value, because then you use those to convert more of the clients that you want from, like, if they say your price is too high, well, you slide across the table from them a book of client testimonials saying how great you are, and say, yeah, but you're going to get what you pay for, but at least with us, you're getting a great service. How do you know? Here's what my customers are selling. So in summary, this was what Charles wrote to me. He said, I fired 982 worthless break fix clients to become a $4 million a year MSP. He said, for 15 years, I wasted my time trying to grow my business, burning through thousands of dollars on marketing that didn't work until I started doing what TMT told me. Not only did they fix the marketing, but they helped me change my anything for a buck break fix business into a very profitable, highly professional MSP. And I do know Charles makes over $1 million net today. All right. So that's a pretty significant transition. He sent me this email and it was just out of the blue. He sent this to me. He said, we live in a 600,000 plus house. We're about to cash flow our daughter going to Stanford University. We're debt free, but the mortgage, we're writing big checks for house painting, driveways, not borrowing money for anything. Hopefully for the rest of our lives. We have more cash than we've ever had before. In the last 2 years, we've made more than $1 million. I didn't work for 2 weeks over the holidays. I work from my house 2 to 3 days a week. We go and do pretty much where and what we want and save for the medical requirements. So the other thing about Charles is he has 4 children that all have a medical condition that requires them to fly from Texas, where he's at, up to New York. It's hell. And one of them is special needs on top of that. So he's got massive medical bills, right? So we're doing pretty good. There's always richer and more, but we're plenty rich where we sit. So he said, I want to thank you for what you do. It's the whole experience. So this is the kind of transformation that when I see a lot of smaller MSPs, I'm thinking, there's so much more you could be doing for your family and your life if we could fix your business, right? This is why you don't want to just be a tech with helpers. Charles was a tech with helpers, and it was good, but like his life is completely transformed now. All right. So now that I talked about client development, I want to talk about that middle category, which is converting more leads to customers. Okay. So if you remember those 3 buckets that we talked about, the first one was client development. The second one here is going to be converting more leads to customers. Okay. So there's 3 essentials. Now there's a lot of things you got to do. So I don't want you to think these are the only 3, but these are the 3 most important things. Okay. 1, you got to have a high converting search optimized website. Why? Because your website is the hub for all marketing, even referrals. People go search for you and they look at your website before they call and before they make a decision. So your website has to convert. It's got to pass the grunt test. So if a prospect goes there, can they instantly tell what you're selling and who you sell it to? All right. It's got to have a very clear, distinct call to action. Like you can see on this one, like get my free guide or book a 15-minute discovery call, right? It's got to be designed to maximize conversion, and it's got to build authority and trust and be optimized for search. So step 1, you got to have a really good website. Now it doesn't have to be a $50,000 good website, but you need a good, solid search optimized website. Okay. So, because like if you look at this, so this is an MSP, small MSP, you can see that it says complete IT services, amazing customer support, get started. Okay. So the question is, well, what the heck are you selling? If a prospect came to this site, they would not know. Now they know, you guys know because I just told you, but they don't know. Who is this for? Is this for big business, small business? By the way, they're targeting smaller businesses. And one of the image fails on this is not only is the guy to have his back turned, I'm ignoring him, but that's like a huge mainframe computer. There's no small business that knows what the heck that thing is, right? Who else can say that? Can you prove it? Why should I call or click? And if I don't want to take action right now, like if I'm not ready to get started, how do I get more information? There's no lead generation piece on here. This is another example. And I'm not trying to pick on these MSPs. I'm just showing you, like, the site looks really good. I mean, this is not an ugly site, but what are they selling? You know, the average prospect that comes to the site is not going to know what the heck you're doing. And there's no lead generation. There's no phone number to call, right? Or this one, Windows Server and SQL Server end of support. Now, I think that's what they sell, but if I'm a small business owner, I'm not looking for Windows Server and SQL. I don't even know what SQL is, right? Server end of support. I'm looking for someone who can fix my Wi-Fi or, help me with my email, right? So again, you got to be very, very careful. Your website is a really important strategic marketing asset you've got to have. The second asset you need is a no-fail lead capture, tracking, and follow-up system. Now, this is the essential number 2, but there's 4 components to developing a no-fail lead capture system, right? And the first one is you got to have a CRM in place, right? You got to have something where you automatically capture leads to build your list and track opportunities so no lead is left behind. Because the number 1 problem every MSP has when they first come to us is list related, meaning they don't have one. They don't have no CRM. They've not been building it. There's no way to capture leads on their website. They've gotten referrals and they've ignored it. It's in their inbox somewhere, or they've been to a networking event and they got that stack of business cards that's in your desk drawer with a rubber band around it, not put into a CRM, not followed up on, et cetera, et cetera. Or you might have a list, but you haven't been doing any drip marketing. So your list has gone cold again because your list is not a static asset. If you aren't marketing to your list, at least every other week, we recommend once a week doing a blog post or an email or something. If you're not doing drip marketing, your list gets colder and colder and colder, and then your delivery rates go down as well. Sometimes you haven't secured permission for email, or you did initially, but then you lost the permission because you have not been emailing them. And you don't want to just randomly out of the blue start emailing somebody you haven't talked to in 20 years because they're going to think you're a spammer. So once you get a lead, it's super important that you keep talking to that lead, email, postcards, telemarketing, there's different ways you can communicate, but you got to do drip marketing of good, useful content so that you stay engaged with that lead. And when that person is ready to buy, they think of you, because not every lead is going to buy from you right away. The vast majority won't. When you start doing real lead generation, I mean, that's how I've built a list of 46,000 plus MSPs in my CRM that are all qualified prospects. It's because for over 20 years, I've been list building and developing that list. And now it's a lot easier for me to do marketing than it is like if you were just starting out, right? You have a lot of wrong and missing data. You have no CRM, so you might not even have the data. You can't segment it for appropriate messaging. So if you want to talk to your customers and prospects differently, you even talk to different customers different. Like a prospect that you got from a referral, you want to follow up with that a little different than you get from a lead that you got off of Facebook, right? So that's what segmentation is. Segmentation is the ability to pull a segment of your list for an offer or for some sort of communication that is appropriate to them. Because if you send the same message to everybody, you're going to be tone deaf and you're not going to get the response, and people will opt out because they're like, well, that doesn't pertain to me. So you got to be very targeted with your messages, and that's what a good CRM will let you do. And you have no notes or no history on the leads that you've gotten. Where did they come from? What were they interested in? What was the conversation? Where did you leave off? It's like, again, a CRM is like a ticketing system for your leads, right? Imagine trying to do managed services without a ticketing system. I mean, you could do it, but you'd be very severely constrained and limited to the number of customers you could have, and you'd probably drop a lot of balls, right? Miss a lot of things and make a lot of mistakes. So think of the CRM as like that for your, for marketing. All right. The second thing we got to do is we got to fix your phones, and you got to have a dedicated trained person answering those phones live and doing it properly and processing all those inbound leads. Okay. Now, some of you might be small and you don't have that dedicated person. I got it. There are answering services that will do this for you. But the reason this is so critical is because I know from our experience in doing digital marketing for well over, I mean, we've done digital marketing for well over 300 MSPs where we're doing pay-per-click, retargeting, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, Bing ads. We're driving traffic in. And that lead is coming in, and a lot of people are going to call. The hottest leads call your office. They don't fill in a form, they call. And we have seen repeatedly that lead come in, qualified lead come in, get a voicemail, hang up. And then what they're doing is they're just Googling and calling the next IT provider, right? So you've got to answer your phones live in order for your website to convert the maximum number of leads and for your ads to work. Because the number one reason somebody fires their current MSP and hires a different one is because they're frustrated, because they're not responsive. They call you looking for a new MSP. Lo and behold, they're getting voicemail. Not good. All right. And there's stats that show this as well. If you take longer than 5 minutes to follow up on an inbound lead, the ability to talk and qualify that prospect drops 80%. What they mean by that is your ability to get them on the phone. Why? Because they're off calling the next company. They're moved on, right? So you've got like 5 minutes to get them on the phone when an inbound lead comes in. 78% of customers buy from the first person to respond to the request. There's study after study that shows this. There's a 391% increase in sales conversations when an inbound lead is connected within the same minute that they submit their web form. So a 391% increase chance of you talking to that prospect. And you think, well, of course they're going to talk to me. They've opted in. No, they won't. When you start doing, see, when I hear comments like that, you're used to getting referrals. Referrals will tolerate that. An inbound lead generated off a Facebook ad or a trade show or an SEO optimized like a search, they're not going to be that tolerant. They're bouncing, they're going on to the next MSP. And I know you go, well, that's not happening in my business, but roughly 62% of the calls we make to MSPs go straight to voicemail because we call thousands of you guys. Like we're calling you for marketing purposes, client purposes, and everything else. And 14% of the companies we call have bad numbers, like broken voicemail, mailbox is full, we get a fast busy, out of service, it just rings out. And these are the numbers posted on your website. So you've got to fix your phones. And one of the things that I'll make sure, like, we'll figure out how to get this to you is I have a whole process of how to handle inbound leads. And I'll make sure, Karen, if you're in the background there, you can make sure that this gets to our advisors, so we can get this to everybody. Okay. Number 3, hot lead follow-up. You got to implement a hot lead follow-up that includes multiple phone calls, emails, and an offline package. So when the lead comes in, you don't want to just make one phone call. All right. There's a study from Harvard. 71% of qualified leads are never followed up on. And of the ones that are, typically they're only getting touched 1.3 times. That is a tragedy because it's not the people, like sometimes you get a lead and people are still interested, but they're just hard to get on the phone. You've got to call 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 times. You got to send multiple emails. You got to send an offline package. This is our inbound lead follow-up process, right? And so when it comes in, we are immediately, did they book the appointment or not? If they did book the appointment, we do follow up and confirm it. If they didn't book the appointment, there's another set of emails and phone calls that go out, right? Did they show up for the appointment? There's this whole thing. Now, the point I'm making, it doesn't matter what's on here. Without a marketing automation platform, which is one of the things I talked about a minute ago, this is going to be difficult, complicated, and near impossible. But when you have a marketing automation platform, this can be automated so that you're not having a human being remembering all these things and setting reminders and tasks and trying to do this manually, which it'll never happen, right? And then number 4, you need drip marketing. You got to send a weekly email to your list. I mean, weekly is what we recommend, at least every other week, to a blog, to a video, to a piece of content that your clients and prospects will find interesting, and a monthly offline drip campaign, okay? So here's why you need that drip, because all B2B sales for big purchases and switching IT providers is a big purchase, is made to slow maturing buyers. People are not quick to change MSP providers. So they're going to start to look, they're going to go, well, maybe think about it. Let me look at this guy, right? You've got to have long-term follow-up. In B2B, the average inbound lead takes 84 days to convert to an opportunity, not a sale. An opportunity, meaning an appointment. to sell them something, right? In our business, in TMT, 42% of prospects buy within a month. Good, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But 7% after 2-3 months, 5% 4 to 6, 9%, all the way you can start to see that we stay on our leads for a very long time. So if we gave up after 3 months, we would miss 51% of the opportunities, the customers, the sales. If we gave up on leads after 3 months, and most of you aren't even following up with 3 months, you're following up for 3 days. If we gave up after 3 months, we would miss 51% of our sales, which represents for us about 14 million in initial sales, not even long-term. That's a lot of dough. So for you guys, you got to think about this. You have to have long-term follow-up. I'll show you it in a different way, okay? This slide shows 2 different MSPs, same cost per lead, same percentage or qualified of leads, but MSP 1 does a better job at capturing and following up and doing drip marketing. So 70% of their leads book an appointment, where MSP 2 does not do a good job. They don't capture the lead. They don't answer the phones live. They don't have long-term follow-up, right? Same close rate, same average sale, right? You're looking at this. MSP number 1 is generating $432,000 because they're getting 25, they're getting 18 to book an appointment, where the other one's getting 5. So their close rate even being the same, they're generating $288,000 more sales, more revenue, same cost, because the cost per lead does not go up. The number of qualified, everything is the same here. The only difference is what percentage of leads did they actually jump on and get them to book an appointment. And for most of you, you don't even know you're generating leads, because there are inbound phone calls coming into your office you don't even know are happening, because they're not leaving a voicemail, they're hanging up, or they're talking to one of your engineers or someone on your staff who is not capturing the information, not writing it down. They're answering a couple questions and hanging up, no lead capture. So you don't even know what's going on, but I promise you it is 100% going on, right? So this is why that's so important, okay? And then step 3, so we talked about step 1 for this middle bucket we're working on, is you got to have a good website. Number 2, you got to have some sort of lead capture to follow-up system, right? And then the third thing you need is an effective sales process, all right? Now, before I get into this, Karen, is there any questions I need to address?
You're good, Robin.
All good?
All
Okay.
good. People are loving the content. They said you're being very real, which is in
Oh.
our logo. So
That's it. Let's keeping it real, baby. Come on. All right. So then the other reason you need an effective sales process is if we generate leads, you're going to have to close those leads. All right. So I want to tell you, I want to show you what, like how we process through this using another case study. So Adam Spencer is the CEO of 911 IT. All right. So when he came to us, he was a small MSP. He was generating just under $500,000 in revenue, very, very little profit, right? He was in massive debt. He due to losing everything. So this is a crazy story. So he moved, him and his newly married wife moved into an apartment, and he broke out in hives, like all over his body. It was horrible. And he found out that the apartment was contaminated by meth. And that's because somebody was running a meth lab in there. On top of that, his wife was pregnant. His daughter was born with a hypoplastic heart, which means half of her heart was missing. So he had massive medical bills. So they had to move out of the apartment and leave everything. They couldn't take their clothes. They couldn't take their furniture. They couldn't take anything because it was all contaminated. So he loses everything, massive medical bills because of this whole episode, right? And at the time, he's charging $45 a seat for managed services and was struggling to sell it. All right. And because he couldn't sell it, he felt forced to do anything for a buck just to make ends meet. Okay. So same kind of process we took Charles through. So number 1, he joins Accelerators. That was the program that was appropriate for him. And we took him through the same process as Charles of correcting his packaging, his pricing. So it was profitable, it was scalable, and it was competitive. All right. So that was step 1. We had to fix that. Now, this is even kind of funny to me because I didn't like, this is kind of Adam's own initiative, right? But he went to we told him, go to your break fix customers. Here's the talk track, and convert them. So same kind of thing we did with Charles, right? But Adam decided to rent out City Hall, which is like just the City Hall. And he did lunch and learn seminars at his local City Hall and sold the same customers who said no to his, like, what, $24 a seat managed services offering. He was selling it now for 150 a seat, because, or 45 is what he proposed before. And he was getting them to say yes. Why? Because he packaged it properly. He presented it the right way. And that's like, this is the flyer, don't be a sitting duck. Come to our 911 cybersecurity and sandwiches seminar. So he just rented out City Hall, threw a couple sandwiches on a platter in the back, selling managed services to his break fix customers. Okay. Then we started to improve his sales process. So I don't have time to unpack all this, but one of the things that we give all of our members is the MSP sales blueprint. And I know some of you on are customers, but we have a whole detailed out sales process that is included in your membership. And some people, like, because there's so much, they might not even realize that. But your sales process is that first experience somebody's going to have with doing business with you. And it's critical to not only closing sales, but also make sure clients get a complete managed services, not just settle for break fix. So then we started working on his sales process, and he initiated what I call my sales secret weapon, which is a shock and awe box. Now, a shock and awe box, you can see the box in this image here. It says open immediately. That is an actual physical box that Adam sends in advance of a sales meeting with a prospect. So this is after he's qualified them and he's talked to them and they have a problem, and he's going to go out now and sit down with them and do a discovery meeting, right? To give them a quote. He sends this in advance, and there's a self-published book in there. I mean, Adam's gotten very sophisticated since, his $500,000 days. Testimonial book. The magazine in the back there is a vanity magazine. It's a cover edition of MSP Success magazine. That other piece that you see there says Adam Spencer. That is actually a video where you open up this book and this video automatically plays. Now, by doing this and the sales process, he got his close ratio from like 0. Nobody was even buying managed services to he is closing 67% on opportunities where the average MSP is only closing about 35. So dramatically improved his sales process, right? So he said, I went from being in anything for a buck, 500K business to a 3 million MSP in 4 years. I was dripping with desperation, had huge medical bills, was struggling to get people to buy my $45 per seat managed services offering. But after implementing what TMD taught me in selling managed services, we added $70,893 in monthly recurring revenue. So, that's 70,000 times 12, that's 840,000. And with a total contract value of 467,000. And that was just the start. So profitability goes up, MRR goes up, sales go up. Life is good. Okay. And I'll show you another example. Like, close rate's really important, because you can see with his 67% close rate, he could be spending, if you and Adam were competitive MSPs and you're both spending $647 as a cost per lead, let's say, right? And everything else is the same. Leads are qualified, 70% book, but he closes 67 and you only close 30. Same average sale, he's generating $500,000 more in sales with the same cost, with the same prospects, with the same list, and not adding on to his cost, because his close rate, the cost is in generating the lead. The cost is already incurred. If you're not closing the deals, you're letting that money slip through your fingers. Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to the next part of this. Remember, we talked about first maximizing client revenue. Then we talked about the 3 components of the middle section, which was, having a good lead capture CRM system, having a process for following up on those leads, and your sales process. Those are the most important things. And now we're going to be talking about generating more leads. Okay. So I want to just clarify what a lead is, because a lot of people don't know, or they're confused. All right. So a lead is a prospect that has stepped forward out of the masses, and they've shown some interest in engaging with you by responding to a marketing campaign or promotion. All right. And that might be something like they searched online, they found you, they download a free report you got on your website. Maybe they met you at a trade show and you had an exchange with them. Maybe they were referred to you, who knows, right? But that is the definition of a lead. So what's really important for you to know is a list of prospects that you've either assembled, where you built it or you bought the list. And even if you've been marketing to it, calling it or mailing it or whatever, if they haven't responded, it's not a lead. Okay. This is really important, because there's a lot of people out there selling you hot leads. They're not selling you hot leads. they're selling you a list of names. That is not a lead. You still got to do marketing to get it to respond, the person to show interest and respond so that it's now a lead. Okay. So you got to be very careful because there's a lot of people out there scamming you saying, oh, I'm selling you leads. Like if you go, let's say you go to Zoom Info or you go to seamless.ai, which are both really good websites for getting data, like getting names of business owners and data, right? Or you go on LinkedIn and you do this. When you go buy that data, that's all it is data. You still have to do marketing. You got to still make the phone calls and send the mail and do the emails and do the things to the list to get them to respond to make them a lead. Okay. So I want to make sure you understand it's really important, right? And so one of the essential things that you want to implement is what we call EDR marketing, which is educational direct response marketing. And that is marketing that uses content to attract and convert prospects into a lead. So you can see here, free executive guide for CEOs of Rochester manufacturing companies, 3 surefire signs your IT company is putting your manufacturing firm at serious risk. This is called a lead generation magnet. And we use this to get people to raise their hand and be a lead for us. Or this is another example, right? Free special report for small medical practices, brand new critical changes to IT security, compliance, and insurance. Every medical practice executive needs to know, and we're offering this as a free report. So the characteristics of this style of marketing is number one, to the greatest extent possible, we are targeting all campaigns exclusively to a list of high probability, high value prospects. Okay. Number two, all marketing is promoting an offer of some kind. Now, I just showed you 2 free report. It could be a webinar like what you're on now. It could be, it could also be an assessment. Like we have members that may have an offer of a dark web scan, or they'll do a network assessment or a cybersecurity risk assessment or like a galactic scan or something like that. But the key is we're not promoting your services, we're promoting the offer. That's what that, and then we're using that content to educate them. Which is the 4th bullet here. We're using content to strategically design to position you as a trusted authority and educate that prospect so they're more receptive to your ideas. And we use strong sales copy that really hits on their hot buttons so we grab their attention. Now, earlier I was asked, well, Robin, what do you do if if you have cheaper competitors in your area? Like, how do you compete with that, right? So this is an example. This Charles Swihart, the guy, one of the case studies I showed you here, right? Charles had that issue because he used to be the cheapest guy. He'd go drive to your house and fix your mouse for $20. So once he started going upstream and charging like $160, $170 per seat, he started getting price resistance, of course. So how do we overcome it? We wrote a free report, 5 ways cheaper priced IT firms hide the true cost of their services in their contracts. Now, that is a good headline right there. I mean, you get the idea. So then we outline, here's 5 things that most MSPs that are cheaper than us are not including, and here's why you need those things. All right. That is the whole philosophy behind educational direct response, because if you're selling a quality product, then an educated customer is your best customer. Because when people are buying on price, they're doing it because they can't tell the difference between you and a cheap guy. All they know is like you both look the same, sound the same, you're saying the same things, but that guy's like a lot cheaper than you. So I'm going with him, right? You have to educate the prospect, all right? Because when educational direct response is done right, it will facilitate, accelerate the sales process because it attracts right fit prospects. It pre-sells them. The content you deliver sets the expectation of here's what good is. Here's what you should demand from your IT provider. Never sign a contract with an MSP without getting at least these 5 things, whatever those things are. And by doing that, you're predisposing them to do business with you. All right. So step 1, when you're doing any kind of lead generation marketing, whether it's your website or your social media or trade show or telemarketing, you want to make sure in all of your ads, in all of your marketing, you're offering some kind of lead generation magnet to get somebody to raise their hand and move towards you and not just promoting your services. Okay, so that's number 1. Okay, essential number 2 for lead generation marketing, there's 4 component parts to every campaign. You've got to get exactly right for the campaign to work. So if you think about a campaign right now that you tried and it failed, I guarantee you one or maybe more of these four elements were wrong. And see, these four things are like four legs on a table. If one of the legs is missing or shorter than the others, the whole table's wobbly and it's no good, right? So number one, you got to get a quality list or target market. We got to target high probability prospects. That's like number one. And by the way, that would be like going to certain, like when we go to certain industry events for marketing and we're sponsoring a table in the back, certain shows, even though they're all MSPs, certain shows we get better quality customers at certain shows than others. That's the list. Like if you're doing direct mail or telemarketing, you're calling, the list is you're buying that list and you're marketing to that list. If you go on LinkedIn, you want to make sure basically whoever you're targeting are prospects you actually want when you get them. All right. Then the second thing you got to get right is the message. So what is the campaign going to say that is going to get their attention and make them want to talk to you? All right. So what is it in the email? What is it on your website? What is it in your trade show booth? Somebody walks up to you. What do you say to somebody when someone walks up and says, well, what do you guys do? What you say is the message. And the media is how that message is being delivered. So again, trade show booth, the media is a trade show. It is conversations. If you're doing a direct mail campaign, the media is obviously direct mail, but there's a message printed on that. I had a member the other day post to our member portal and they were saying, hey, I don't know if this campaign's, here's what I'm doing. I'm using FedEx, and which is good because it'll get through to somebody. I'm using FedEx and I'm putting a dollar bill in there and I'm putting a puzzle in there and I'm doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, that's great. That's the media. But what does the message say? Because what the letter says, yeah, we're going to get their attention. If you're FedExing somebody money in the mail, you're going to get their attention. But if the message falls apart and there's no follow-up, then you're going to waste money on this campaign. So the message has to grab their attention. Okay. And then there's the math. You have to have reasonable expectations of results and ROI based on backwards planning. And what most people don't realize is the difficulty of the task. So like, for example, if you are sending out an email broadcast to a list of subscribers, these are opt-in lists, 20%, only 20% are going to open the email. And then maybe only 1 or 2% of them are going to click through, right? So let's say you have a list of 5,000 emails, prospects that you're emailing, right? That means if you send out an email, roughly only about 1,000 of them are going to get opened. And then out of that, maybe 1% are going to click through, which means you're going to get a 10% click-through rate. And then when whatever it is the offer is, you might only get 50%. So you might only, like if you're promoting a webinar and you got a list of 5,000, you might only get 5 registrations. And a lot of people are shocked by that, but there's math to these things. Most websites don't convert more than 1.5% to 2% of the traffic coming there, of the legitimate traffic, by the way, not spam. When you're doing SDR calls, like outbound telemarketing calls, right? You're doing great if 5% of your dials actually gets to a decision maker, right? People are shocked when they're calling. They're like 2%, 3% of their calls are even getting through. And it's like, that's about average. So when you're doing marketing, you have to understand ratios and you got to understand metrics, because if you don't, you're going to grossly overestimate what you think a campaign is going to do. And that's why you have to have multiple campaigns. You got to have referrals and strategic partnerships, and you want to build a list and you want to do drip marketing, because all of those things combined start making your metrics and your math better, which is, I've been showing you in these case studies about how you make your math better. Okay. So these are the 4 things you got to get right. And then the essential number 3 in lead generation is you got to have multiple oil wells to consistently build a pipeline of opportunities. You can't just do one off. People come to me and they're like, Robin, what's the one thing I should do? And it's the worst question, because there is no one thing that will get you all the clients you want, all the success, right? So, again, people say to me, which ones will work best for me, right? It's actually the ones you'll do. So years ago, I used to teach fitness classes, and that's when I didn't run a business. I had more time on my hands. I didn't have kids. I didn't have so I was teaching these classes, right? And after every class, I'd get somebody come up to me, and it was the same conversation. They would point to a body part they didn't like. Robin, I got a big beer gut. I want to get rid of it. I got big thighs. My ass is really big. How do I lose that weight? Or I got the bingo wings. The bingo wings are when the old ladies are in the bingo hall and they're yelling bingo and they're doing this. It's that big flap of skin that's like hanging out. They're called bingo wings. Yeah, it's really nice. They show me the part they didn't like, and then they'd say, what's the exercise I should do to get rid of it? And my answer was always the same. It's the one you'll actually do. Right? So when we teach our clients, that's why we teach multiple oil wells. We give referral systems. We have website and SEO landing page campaigns. We have networking event campaigns. We have warm outreach and cold outreach, from the phone or LinkedIn or email. We have canvassing, strategic partners, SDR campaigns. We have paid ads. So whether it's Google, Bing, social media, retargeting, we have organic social media posts, trade shows, webinars, seminars, events, unconverted lead reactivation campaigns. We have all of these different campaigns that we give to our clients because it's a math problem. How many clients do you want? Then you got to do the math. And we show people how to do this. How do you plan backwards? If you want a customer a month, how many opportunities do you need to open? How many appointments do you need to have? How many leads do you need to get in? And then how are we going to get those leads in there? And we show people multiple ways of how to get that. Because like if you won't do, let's say you just won't do canvassing. Well, then don't do canvassing. As long as you're doing referrals and SEO and you're doing networking events and you're getting sufficient lead flow, you don't have to do canvassing. Some people will, some people won't. So, the key is you got to do sufficient. And again, most of you grossly underestimate the difficulty of the task. And so you grossly under prospect. All right. It's the same problem most salespeople have when they get started. They grossly underestimate how many people they have to talk to get the appointments, to get the opportunity, to get the sales that they need. All right. So I'll give you an example. So this is Roland Parker, Impress IT Solutions. Okay. So Roland had taken 20 years and he had gotten his MSP to 2 million, which is pretty good, right? That's not bad, but 20 years, right? What's really kind of interesting though, is Roland, started his business in Zimbabwe, Africa, and he imported, he moved here in like 2003 and he was forced to because of the instability and the violence in the area. So he came to the United States legally, I'll add, and started over from scratch. But he had 20 years and he finally got to 2 million, but he had been stuck at 2 million in revenue for like 6 years. And he really wanted to get to 5 million. He was mostly break fix with some managed, grinding out 12+ hour days, relied mostly on referrals and networking events for marketing, but nothing was consistently working. Okay. So here's the process. Same thing that I'm telling you guys to do. We started with his website. We got this high converting search optimized website. And this is included in the membership. So that we revised his website. You can see that we're using the free report as lead generation bait, and it's a hidden in plain sight sales presentation. It doesn't say that, but it is an informative report, but basically sells the prospect on why they need to hire you. It educates them on what to look for when, buying an like IT services, making you the obvious choice, answers frequently asked questions like why managed over break fix, and provides case studies and testimonials. So he had all of that baked in here. And then of course, at the end of that was selling the next step of a consultation. Plus we fixed his follow-up because we implemented a CRM. So he had hot leads coming in, right? And now we are following up with them immediately and we're helping to start build his list. All right. So Roland, one of the things he said, we now have 1,700 companies in our Drip Tips campaign. Drip Tips is an email campaign that is fully automated through the CRM system we give our members. So once you set the customers in there, the thing just runs on autopilot. 523 prospects in direct mail outreach and climbing weekly. And we're sending over 1,500 emails on a weekly basis. And again, a lot of this is purely, totally automated. All right. Then we did social and SEO. We initiated a testimonial Google review campaign. You can see I think this is an old picture because he's got over more than 500 Google reviews to ramp up organic traffic. We use TMT social media campaigns, have made a real effort to connect with our clients and prospects on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So another thing we teach you is go to those channels and connect with your customers on these social media platforms. It's another way of communicating with them. Same with your prospects when they come in. Now we produce at least one YouTube video per week, along with a daily Facebook post, which has resulted in 3,700 Facebook followers. He actually now today has 1.1 or 1,112 YouTube subscribers, and 561 Google reviews. So that old picture was a little bit older. So this is all based on social media and doing this now. It is a couple of years in doing these, right? So it's not like he just started in like the month after he got it. Then we're implementing prospecting. One of the campaigns we have is called the Aspirin campaign, right? And he started using a list cleaning process. So he's buying data on Seamless AI, I think, and Zoom Info. And he had a list. So he did have some list, right? He started doing the list cleaning and then started sending about 120 of these letters per week. And he had an SDR, which is a sales development rep, telemarketer, making follow-up calls to the letters. And over a year, he added 1,912 qualified prospects to Keep, which is the CRM marketing automation platform that we provide. And he added that to Drip Marketing. And out of that, added 15 new clients, $37,790 in new MRR, and 1.6 million in total contract value with hardware, software, projects, services, everything. And that was just from this one campaign. Okay. Very, very powerful. So started getting that running. Today, he's also doing webinars and videos. So he does a series of webinars. He hosts them live, and then he puts them up on YouTube. And so this is really excellent positioning, but it's a nurture drip marketing as well with the webinars that he does. And then he does pay per click, Google and Bing pay per click, paid ads, and retargeting. Now, this was all a process, guys. Now, remember, when he first came to us, we didn't do all this all in a month. This was a progression, right? Excuse me. So this is what Roland had to say. He said, I got out of our 6-year rut, added 1.12 million in a year. And for years, we've been stuck at the 2 million mark, simply busy, but not profitable. Hectic days followed by collapsing and exhaustion. At the end of the day, we were the norm. We had no effective way to get new clients. After implementing a marketing plan provided by TMT, we catapulted ourselves to 3.5 million under 2 years, and they're still growing. So he added 1.1 million in a year. At the time we got this case study, it was a little bit longer than that. So Karen, let me pause here. Questions?
Yeah, we had a question, Robin, about how to measure the success of a lead generation campaign, like how long you would need before you have to decide if you need to adjust.
Well, you have to understand metrics, all leading indicators as well as trailing. Okay. So like if I send an email and only 5% open it, something went wrong, because I know, well, for our list, it would be like more like 60-70% would open, because we keep our list clean. Like if people don't open emails, we take them off our list. That helps us keep our list. So for us, we know, if we send an email and we only get a 10% open rate, subject line was wrong, something was wrong. Okay. So right away, I know. All right. Or like an SDR. So if an SDR is calling, and let's say they're making I don't know, 100 dials a day is typically what they're making. Let's say their connection rate, meaning for the campaign that we're rolling out, and it's emails, it's phone calls, it's mails. Let's say they're only getting through to 3% of the dials. So connection to dial rate, meaning like how many dials do they need to make before they get somebody on the phone, right? If they're only getting 3%, I know something's wrong. It's either the list is off or the script is wrong or something, okay? Because it should be 5%. When they get them on the phone, when they get in front of that prospect, they should be converting 15% to an appointment. If they're only converting 5%, something's wrong with the script. So sometimes, like with campaigns, you kind of like look at these leading indicators, and then if it's on track or off track. Now, the problem, again, for most of you is you don't have any leading indicators because you're not doing any marketing. So there is going to be a process of where you are implementing marketing to see what works, what doesn't work, and sort of creating a baseline. And because you have no systems and processes, and because you don't have a list that you've been nurturing, and because you have no recognition or brand awareness, your results are going to be way worse than like my results, because I've been doing it for 20 years and I've been steady and consistent. Because the more marketing you do to a list or to a target market, the more marketing you do, the more productive it becomes. But you can't do this start, stop, because if you do that, you never get anywhere. You never build traction. You never build awareness. You never build like a pipeline. And every time you stop, you got to start all the way over again. Okay. So good.
Good.
All right. So here's the reality, folks. If you change nothing, nothing will change. And so one of the things I would encourage all of you to do right now is to go to itmarketingplan.com, and Miss Karen, if you don't mind, put that in the little chat there for people, and sign up for a one-on-one marketing consultation with one of my senior advisors. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over your situation, your budget, your goals. What do you need? And we're going to give you our marketing roadmap. A marketing roadmap shows you how to implement a marketing plan in your MSP, right? And it's free and it's simple. So you go to the URL, itmarketingplan.com, and you're going to schedule. It's a 60-minute consultation. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. It just depends on how many questions you have. But for the most part, it's under 60 minutes. All right. You're going to meet with one of my advisors, and they're going to talk to you about where you are, where you want to go, and they're going to give you a plan with the roadmap, say, here's what you need to get more high paying, high value customers. And then, we'll make appropriate recommendations of ways we might be able to help you with that. And if that's the case, you implement the plan and you start getting paid what you're worth, working with clients who actually appreciate you. Okay. So really, really simple. Do not let this be another, webinar that you don't take action on. If you remember, I opened up by asking you if you could go back in time and you knew how to do marketing and lead generation and client development and sales and all the things we talked, if you knew how to do those things, if you had that implemented, how much money would you have? And I know the number for most of you was a breathtaking number. So don't let that happen again. The best time to fix the future is today. So make a decision, sign up, itmarketingplan.com, get on a consultation, at least check out the programs we have. I mean, at a minimum, at least be aware of what's out there and what we can do for you. You're going to get value because you're going to get our roadmap. You're going to get your questions answered. And if it's not appropriate, it's not appropriate. That's fine. We part as friends, but please do something. Do not let the next year, 3 years, 5 years be just like the last one, unless you were just crushing it and making tons of money. But if you weren't, and you lack in marketing, and you don't have a list, and you don't have a CRM platform, and you don't know metrics, and you don't know these things, you got to get that education. It's not like success is not just going to magically fall from the sky in your lap, guys. You know that, right? Like, you got to learn this process, and you're either going to pay for it with trial and error, trying to figure it out, if you ever figure it out, or you can enroll in one of our programs. And we're going to shortcut this because we've been doing this for 20 years for 10,000 MSPs. We have blueprints, we have processes, we have the scripts, we have the things that you need so that you can move forward quickly and do it like the case studies that I've showed you, very quickly, and start growing your MSP profitably. All right. All right. So that's all I've got, Karen. If there's nothing else, I know I went a little bit over.
You're
Appreciate
great.
you guys.
All
Great.
good.
Okay. Go sign
Thanks,
up.
all.
All right. I appreciate you all. Thanks, everybody.